my previous video, one of the most important printer settings that needs to be set correctly is the thermal camera offset calibration. Now, all your other surface layer temperature values are dependent on your thermal camera recording real life temperatures. So before you start messing with any of the print profile temperature settings, just make sure your thermal camera is calibrated to your system. So once I had my thermal camera offset properly calibrated, I was able to start the bed layer prep phase. Now the purpose of the bed layer prep is to lay down about 13 millimeters of powder, and this acts as basically a thermal barrier prior to the printing. And this prevents parts from warping in the lower layers during printing and during cooling. Now originally, before the firmware upgrade, you had to set the bed prep layers at one temperature in the print profile settings, as you see here. And then if you wanted higher temperatures during the bed prep phase, you had to go into this tune feature, you see, here on the printer status page, and then manually enter the value and hit enter to increase that temperature. Now, from my understanding, you really want your bed prep layers to be the same temperature as your printing layer. And your printing layer temp, and for my system, was the first prints I started doing was around 177.5. But in previous attempts, I saw a lot of expansion and catastrophic tearing of the powder as it went from the preheat surface temperature of 165 to the bed prep temperature of 177. So I definitely didn't want to start out at that high temperature. I wanted to ease into it, let's say. So to prevent the early layers of the bed prep from tearing, I adjusted my initial bed prep layers to 172 degrees for the first 4 millimeters, and that's where you put the number here. Then I went into the tune feature and I manually increased it to 174 for the next 4 millimeter of layers. And then I was able to then go back in after the basically 8 millimeters of layers had been put down. I then increased the temperature to the print layer temperature that I wanted to print at. In this case was 177. And then the final 5 millimeter layers go on at that temperature. Now by increasing bed prep layer temperature gradually, I eliminated all tearing issues and the surface was at the correct temperature when printing started. Pavel has now built in the ability to do this gradual increase automatically with the latest firmware update. Now this is done by going into the Print Profile Layers tab, as shown here, and then enabling Prep Increase. And then the bed prep target temp is the same, so 172 is where we want to start out at. But now there's two other settings, the Prep Increase From and the Prep Increase To, and these are put in with percentages. So those percentages are based on the bed prep thickness height, which the default is 13 millimeters. So for me, I found that at 30%, which is 3.9 millimeter of height, I would start increasing the temperature until I got to 60%, or about 7.8 millimeters height, without any issues. And then, as you can see in this video, the temperature gradually increases from 172 to 177, which is now the print layer temp I'm operating at. And it begins at 3.9 and it ends at 7.8. And basically emulating what I was doing manually. And now since then, I can basically start a print job and walk away without any worries that the surface layer will have any issues going into the print phase. Just keep in mind that these are the printer profile settings I have using Formlab's PA12 powder. Your settings may be different depending on the powder and just your overall system, but you know that you now have the ability to gradually increase from bed prep to the final print, which will be more effective as you move along with this printer. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next printer setting.